Alright folks, I've redone this like 5 times now, but where we left off is setting this up for receiver to actually work. As you can see, all these points, they're the animation system receiver uses. And I just make these by duplicating the slide, or the part that needs to move, moving it to where it needs to move, and then just calling it point slide. And you call it whatever is relevant to the point that you're trying to duplicate. You don't have to exactly match these names, but it helps because it just automatically detects them when we're setting up the gun later. Point slide start. And then you just remove the mesh renderers and the slide, the mesh filters from it. And you do this with every part that needs to move. So it helps to check if they start open or closed. And you can just like add these parts and look down here to see what point they're looking for. In this case, point safety off, so this needs to have a point that makes it go off. But if you look at the slide lock, it actually wants to slide lock the point that's on. It's a little inconsistent, but it shouldn't be too hard to figure out. Point thumb safety off. Slide lock is gonna be, let's see, what was it? Slide locked, yeah, so this one's a locked version, which is gonna be up. Call it point slide lock locked. And if any of these names are off, you can manually assign the right like points for it. So if you're messing up names, it doesn't really matter. For the trigger, you're gonna want a trigger pressed. Point trigger pressed. Remove. Let's see, what else is here? Slide in, muzzle flash, right. You just create empty ones and move them to where the muzzle is. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. Self-explanatory, I would say, but it doesn't really matter how accurate it is because you don't really see the bullet exit anyway. But points, it needs to be kind of accurate just so the iron sights make sense. Muzzle, and the muzzle flash is usually a little bit in front of that, like that. You can just look at the poses this thing uses. As you can see, that's where he puts the muzzle, that's where the flash is. So it's a little bit forward. It's like a split second thing anyway, so it doesn't super matter if it's not 100% accurate, but it works. Alright, so what's next? Let's see. Mag inserted into insert and load round and chambered round. Okay. So for the rounds, we're going to be using the same bullets as this thing uses, in this case. If you're making your own version, you just duplicate these objects and change the mesh around. But I'm going to be using these exact ones. So I'll just put them inside the gun and zero them out. So it's right there. Then I'll be turning off this mesh renderer so I can position this properly. And this is going to be chambered, which means it needs to be visible when you pull the slide back. And that's going to be right there, I think. Yeah, that works. Add an empty object to it. And then call this one point chamber chambered round, right? Then we position this like this and move it back a little. And that's what the animation's like if it like moves inward, like as it ejects from the magazine and goes into the gun like barrel. So this is going to be points load round. And then you can just delete this again and it'll work. Okay, let's turn the slide back on. There we go. And what's next? So there's these magazine ones. This is a little trickier. The magazine has a weird pivot right now. I think I'm just going to use the existing mag from this thing and duplicate it. Call this Ruger SR9 magazine object fill. There we go. Put that in this folder that I made. Let me just close these. And then pop it into the gun. Zero it out. Right. Now I think I'm gonna put the... Is this right? Why is this not zeroed? Oh, right. Weird. It's not like centered. Might be the magazine model. I don't know. But either way, you try matching it sort of to the magazine, and then you can just pop the magazine mesh in there. Remove the Glock magazine mesh later. Hold on. Apply that. Right. This is the annoying part of setting up these guns, because you have to manually position all these bullets right now as of recording this video. So what I do is I put a translucent material on here, which is already in the project, so that's nice. Then I gotta try and make these bullets match up. This is what makes setting these things up a little tedious, like more tedious than I'd want. Just making sure it doesn't penetrate the sides of the magazine, because it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be close to perfect. And then I have to move each and every one of these bullets to make sense inside this magazine. And you can kind of do it multiple at a time sometimes, but this is a very like manual labor kind of thing. This music is making me nervous. I might switch it. Ah, there it is. That's nicer. This is the Half-Life 2 soundtrack, by the way. You probably recognize it. Figured I'd pick video game music for this so I wouldn't get weird copyright issues. And why not Half-Life, with Half-Life Alyx coming out soon. Right, so this is the first bullet. This is gonna need to be right there, I think. I can center this, right? Yeah. And now I gotta move all these up a little bit so you can actually see what you're shooting. Meanwhile, these go down. Wow, that's annoying. think the main point is to have them be visible from the side. Wait, whoa, this is way off. Hold on. This needs to be up here, and this needs to be down here, I think. Because that's 16, yeah. Especially with these staggered magazines, this is really annoying, because you end up repositioning it a whole lot. This goes up, right? I think? Yeah. But this is minute detail stuff. You can spend a long time just trying to get these perfect. I think there was some talks about making a tool for this at some point. Just to have it like programmatically align these bullets. But as of making this video, that's not a thing. So I'm shit out of luck. It's not super evenly spaced here, but I really don't think I could carry any less than this. This thing is supposed to have 17 bullets, I looked it up, and this is 17, so I guess the magazine is just a little more spacious compared to the Glock. Either that or the scale is off slightly, I don't know. I could easily believe that, to be honest. Okay. I'm just gonna call this done. Make sure to change it back to the gun map. Alright, so there's one more thing I need to cover with the gun material too, which is I made it hold on, let me actually set this up first. You need 2 points, one where it's inserted and one where it's going to be inserted. So this would be around the right spot, I think. And this will be point mag, hold on, what's it called? Mag to insert. And then this one gets to be point mag inserted. And then I can delete these, because it doesn't need a magazine in the model. Let's make this a prefab, just so I have that done. Right, so the default material that comes with the game is called custom vertex data. They use this for the levels, but it calls the back. So if you like see the inside of this, I haven't modeled it, which means it shows up as see-through in the game if it's like opened and looked inside of. So what I did was find that shader, duplicate it, rename it to no call, and then go into the actual like code of the thing, and then you just add one line, and that makes it draw the backside, which is this right here, call off, capital O off. If you add that right under tags, it'll just work. You have to rename the actual thing at the top too. Fuck, hold on. Here, you have to add something to it so it doesn't clash with the old one. So I added no call. Right. That's the only little bit of like script you have to do, I guess. And then you just assign it because it shows up right here. And then you can see the inside. It's not the prettiest sight, but it's better than being able to see through it, and most people won't notice. The alternative is actually modeling the entire inside, but I am not that dedicated. Okay, so we've got all the points. Now we just need the poses. And the poses for this one are gonna be obviously these three. Press check, which is checking if there's a bullet in the magazine instead of pulling the thing all the way. And if I just set this to local, you can see it's mostly rotation. Before we do this though, I need to line up the sights with the 0 point of the gun. Right now this is the 0 point, and that's not gonna fly. It's gonna be really annoying to aim it. The way I fix it is by setting this a little icon so I can tell where the center is, and then you can just move everything down. It helps to go into like a, wait, why is it rotated like that? That's weird. It helps to go into this view, which is isometric, which means you don't see any depth, or perspective, I mean. And then you can move it to where it needs to be, which is exactly lined up with the sights. There we go. As you can see, it's lined up quite well. Right, once you have that, I think just moving it in depth is nice to do, just to have it right there as a center. You can also model everything around that in Maya at the start, but I didn't really feel like that was cool. I don't know. I think I'm gonna make this longer too, so it's actually usable in VR. Let's make it 10 or 15. So it actually looks like a laser. It might not be useful in flat. I don't know yet. Right, poses. All you need is poses now, which is gonna be fairly simple. You're gonna imagine this is the center like camera view. Duplicate the gun and then pose it in a way that makes sense for each of these poses. So when you're press checking, you're gonna want to see the inside of the chamber around the center of the screen. And on this side, it's slightly more open, so I figured this is a nice press check pose. Maybe just a little further out, but yeah. That should be good. You can see what you're doing. And then for reload, or no wait, for slide pull, it's gonna be similar, but I'm just gonna do it this way, just so it looks a little different from the other one. When you pull the slide, obviously you pull the slide. It's not rocket science, but wait, where's my gizmo at? Anyway, hold up, is it not showing? That sucks. There we go, now it's showing. Weird. Alright. So this is the slide pull, and now you need a reload animation. This pose reload is mostly just to have the magazine insert properly, or at least be visible that you're inserting a mag, which means you go to the side, up a little, and then probably outward a little. Just like that, I think. Should be good. It's fine to have it outward a little. These might be a little trial and error for you. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna try to use the alternative stance input for this too, which is gonna be slightly lowered, so you can actually see the laser. That might be cool. Create empties in all of these. This was, let's see, pose, press check, pose, press check. Shove that into the Ruger and delete this. this was gonna be pose, slide, pull. These basically just pose the entire gun in a certain way. And these obviously vary a little based on what kind of gun you're using. Like this is a magazine gun. It has a magazine in it, and you know, it's fairly basic. Revolvers are even more basic. They have more simple poses, less of them I think. Also less points to move and stuff, so it's nicer. I prefer setting up revolvers over magazine-based guns, but that's why I made this video, because magazine-based guns are the most annoying ones to set up. This is pose, reload. Jesus. Pose, reload, right? Yeah. Just making sure that names match, as always. And this is going to be pose alternative stance, which is a new feature that hasn't been used in any of the existing guns, so I'm not sure this is going to work well, but we'll see. Apply all those changes. Right, so now we're going to go into setting up the script. I've been recording for 20 minutes, that's not too bad. And then you just, in this case I'm going to use the Glock preset, but this thing doesn't have a fire mode. And also no fire mode visual, obviously. It has a trigger visual though, and it has a thumb safety and a visual for it. Everything else I think is correct already. Now you gotta fill out all the red highlighted things, because those are missing, or at least it thinks they're missing. Sometimes there's an object filled in anyway, in which case you're probably fine. Let's see, slide lock, and slide lock locked. Magazine object is going to be magazine filled. There we go. Point trigger pulled. I think I did that, didn't I? Oh, pressed. So if you rename it, it'll find it, but still have it red highlighted. It's fine. It has it assigned, so it'll work. Thumb safety, point thumb safety off. There we go. Bullet object is the actual object it fires. I just use the same one every other gun uses here, but you can set up like different effects for it or different damage multiplier. All of these are changeable and you can set it to whatever. But I prefer just sticking to the basics of it. Muzzle flash is going to be in effects, muzzle flash new. I think this was 381 exit velocity, but I'm going to check that real quick. Yeah, it's 381. This is in meters per second, by the way, so you have to make sure you don't use like feet per second, because that's going to be crazy high compared to this. And that's it for now. You can set up custom shoot sounds and such. Custom sounds for everything is possible, but I prefer just sticking to built-in ones for this one, because I'm not gonna set all these up again. I think this has just one clip. Let's see. Safety one? No. Mag eject button. That's going to be the same for every button, because it's just a button. And then for this one, you're going to want mag in, insertion, mag ejection. And I guess the hammer cocks are all the same for this. Let me just check. I'm using this little lock up here to lock the inspector onto one object. So it doesn't even have any sounds assigned for that. Interesting. And it uses the switch for this for some reason. Interesting, interesting. Alright, so pull back, slide. I'll just lock this again. Slide back, slide forward. Does it have a bullet eject sound? I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. Alright, I think everything else is good. Yeah, this looks correct. Okay, so I gotta set up these empty and full casings, which just decide what bullets it's using, which is gonna be the same as the Glock, obviously. Casing, empty casing, round, full casing. You don't have to touch the gun system version. Everything else seems to be good. I do want alternative stance in here. And this is a new feature. I haven't messed with this yet, but I think it should be neat to try out. Stance blocks trigger. No, I don't want these to block anything. Okay. Cool. Apply it. And I think we're done. So now what you want to do is... Right, sorry about that little weird interruption here. I forgot to add the gun holder, set it up properly. These are really important because if you don't set this up, it doesn't actually load. You have to set the bullets again here. I don't know why, but you do. And then from there, you just hit export mod, and then you select your folder. So you go export mod, and then I go into custom guns and select that folder, and you just let it run. This usually takes about 30 seconds or so. It can take longer or shorter depending on how good your computer is. And if you've already built it before, it'll also go a little faster. Once this runs out, you can just start the game, or like the custom, well, once you see this might be in the main build, but if it's not, it's on the beta build, which will be in the beta tabs on Steam after you've set it up using the password in the pins on the Wolfire Discord. Is it done? Yeah, it's done. Alright. We go into here. This is the cool thing about having this. You can just test it in the editor. Oh, wrong one. Ruger. Restart. Alright, there's a no reference. Let's see. I think I might have messed something up. I'm gonna say it was probably the alternative stance mode. Let's see what happens if I disable it. Hold on, I gotta rebuild it, I think. Point recoil rotate. I didn't set that up. What? Hold on. Maybe I messed up the naming. I never set it up. What? Well, I guess this is live bug testing here. It never gave me an error, and I never set it up. Interesting. I thought I did though. Maybe I didn't. Points, recoil, rotate. That's it. That's all I needed. Alright. Let's export it again. At least now that I've done it twice, it'll go quite fast. I usually scroll with my mouse on this area so I can see when it's done. There we go. And now I guess I can just start it again officially. Because it should work now. Let's try it. There we go. Okay. It shoots. Very cool. And then the alternative stance also works. It is like a laser pointer. Pretty cool. And if I run out, it goes into this pose, makes me eject the magazine, switch magazines, oh wait, and insert it again. You pull back the slide, and you can toggle the safety on the side of it. And you can press check. Can't really see that, so I'm gonna want to change that a little bit. Maybe the press check should be further back too. That works. Right. Let's tweak that. Alright, so if I'm going to be press checking, it seems to only go a little bit. And that is because this has a press check position, and that's going to be 0.6 instead of 0.4 in this one. Just because the window is smaller than the Glock, I guess. I'm not sure. Either that or the full pull is not far enough, but I'm not sure. You just apply that, and then you have to rebuild it again. That should make the press check a lot more useful. I could have done either that or, tilted the gun back further so I can more easily see inside the chamber. Either one would have required a rebuild, so probably gonna test it in this specific scene this time, just because it seems easier. Right. Let's try this. Options, restart round, Ruger. Cool. So, let's see. It is, what is it? Let's see, pullback slide and slide lock. So TR. So now I can actually see if there's a bullet in there. Just barely. And if I pull back, it obviously does that. I can switch stance to use it as a laser pointer. eject the magazine, put a new one in. Pretty cool. And let's collect these.
Some receivers believe the message but are unable to hear the source themselves.
Holster weapon.
We have developed a mind tech called clear
Insert
tape
bullets.
to aid in your receiving. Your subconscious mind has been eroded by dangerous, addictive media. To wean you from this addiction, we will trick your mind using its conditioned response to your advantage. By providing the correct external cues,
Ejected.
clear tape provides a way to reduce the
all works.
symptoms of media damage. You will have been issued a clear tape. Put the tape into your tape.
Very nice. So that's just the basics of setting up a magazine-based gun. There's a lot less to setting up like a revolver like this one. Mainly because it just has a lot less poses and a lot less points to worry about. There's some like structural differences, like you need a yoke pivot to actually rotate around that, and a cylinder that is set up properly so that this rotates around the center of the cylinder. Pivots are very important for this. Extractor rod also needs like an end point so it opens like that, which is this one. But it's basically just copying the setup of existing guns into new ones. Or in some cases there's like special setups required, which just use your brain to set it up, you know? It's not super hard to figure out, I feel like. All these names make a lot of sense. You have the actual function and you have the visual for it. So like for example, you have trigger visual. Trigger visual is the actual model and the point that's attached to it to make it move. You clearly don't need the visuals to make the functionality work, but it's just nicer. And that's the basics of setting up a receiver gun. Sorry it's such a long, like, 2-part video, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's also not the hardest thing. Like, it's not the same level of difficulty as, say, making a whole game from scratch, or obviously things take a lot longer if you have to model the gun from scratch, or if you work off of a game model that has less detail than it should have, because then you have to model in those details, and that actually requires quite like some skill to do properly. But all in all, it should be fairly comprehensible at this point, right? So thanks for watching this short little video series, I guess, and I hope you can figure it out, because I'm not really in the mood to help anyone too much beside this video. It should contain everything you need, so